K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and tonight you're watching another episode of Tuesday Night Mania. Let me introduce to you the gentleman we have with us tonight. Let's go ahead and start out with none other than Mr. Big B. How you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, doing good. Just got done doing a show, talk a little baseball. Now I get to talk my favorite love in wrestling. So I can't wait to hear what everybody's got this week.
All right, absolutely. I love it. And then, of course, let's welcome in Mr. Joe Kuntz. How are you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing good, guys. How you guys doing?
Can't complain, can't complain. And then, of course, we have Mr. William Hudson from TRC. How you doing tonight, my man?
What's going on, everybody? Excited to be here. Got a special guest tonight. Really looking forward to hearing him, and got a lot of great stuff to talk about tonight. Had a great live sale last night in Top Rope Collectibles. You guys missed out on it, man. Go back and check it out. Had some stuff left over, and we had some really cool items, so go check it out.
All right, and now let's welcome in our special guest tonight. He is the co-owner of Below Zero Wrestling. So, he goes by Nick. So, Nick, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. So, if you want, kind of tell our fans and us kind of a little bit about Below Zero Wrestling.
Yeah, so Below Zero Wrestling, we're based out of Fargo, North Dakota. Local wrestling company there. We have shows all over, like North Dakota, and then a little bit into Minnesota and everything. We've been doing it about a year now, and we just had our biggest show to date, Winter Slam, which would have been 2 days ago on Sunday, and it was just huge success, and we continue to grow, and it's just been an amazing experience.
All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll start out with Big B. Big B, did you have any questions for Nick?
Yeah, you said it was your biggest show. You guys, I know, talking to you earlier, you crowned your first champion. So who ended up winning that? Who was in the ladder match and who ended up winning?
So, yeah, originally was scheduled for a 4-way ladder match. Unfortunately, one of the competitors, Sierra, was not available to make it. So it was down to a 3-way with Nick Nelson, Jack Ledger, and Brandon Nitro. And after an amazing match, our first ladder match we've ever done, Jack Ledger was crowned our first champion.
All right, cool. I was so first here.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question. With you said your show was called Winter Slam?
Winter Slam, yep.
So in Fargo, North Dakota, don't you have Winter Slams like 9 months out of the year?
Yeah, 8 for sure.
8 for sure. That's awesome. So then when you have like those 2 or 3 days of like good, nice, warm weather, is that your Summer Slam?
Yeah, it's a real quick show, not a lot of being able to, promote it or anything. It's
right.
Our Summer Slam is like 3 minutes long. So
that's what I was just thinking. Yep. It's the same thing in Florida. It's sunshine for an hour and then it'll rain.
Yeah.
I like it. So, Nick, when did you guys start Below Zero Wrestling?
It would have been last year. May 16th was our first show ever.
Okay.
We've been in business technically a year. So.
All right, Joe, did you have any questions for Nick?
I'm assuming that you were a fan growing up as we were. So what made you decide to start your own promotion or co-promotion?
Yeah. So growing up, big fan from the start, as long as I can remember. And I've had different levels of fanhood and, on how much I'd watch wrestling or whatnot. And as I grew older, I dabbled in wanting to be in wrestling in some way, but it just never worked out until I met my business partner about 2 years ago. And we just jokingly were like, hey, we should start a wrestling company. And he had been involved a little bit with a company that Nick Dinsmore, Eugene, ran, and he had helped them out a little bit. And so we just talked, and I own another business. And so by the time it was said and done, we're like, you know what? We both have a lot of strengths that we can bring to the table. And we said, we're going to go for it. 2 big wrestling fans. And here we are now a year later.
What kind of volume do you bring to your shows? How many people attend?
We've had anywhere from 100 when we've been at like a smaller venue out on a lake. Like we did a show middle of a lake campground one time. They brought us in. It was like one of the funnest shows we've ever done. It was 100 people, but it was just crazy. It was in like an old barn, and they were just insanely into it and everything. And then Winter Slam was about 400.
Wow, nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I think my question for you, Nick, so far is probably what's the biggest name you've attracted so far?
We had Eric Redbeard this last week,
Oh, nice.
formerly Eric Rowan.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 2 TNA stars as well. Madman Fulton, who was Sawyer Fulton in the WWE, and then Ace Austin. And they put on a tag team match with NDS, and it not just because it was in my company, but it's one of the best matches I've ever seen.
So,
Nice.
so how long have you been watching wrestling?
As long as I can remember.
Okay, I assume we're about the same age, so give or take 30 years.
Yeah, I just turned 36 last Saturday, so
Yeah, I'm 39, so give or take, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what is your difference in mindset between being a fan, growing up all those years and watching it, and then being involved with it and seeing the actual behind the scenes working of wrestling? What's the mindset difference?
yeah, it's something that right away I told myself I'm going to keep the fan out of it and be the businessman. And I think the biggest mindset for me was going into it already owning a company, and so I was able to kind of turn that off almost, and realize that these guys, girls and guys that go out there and perform, they're that's what they do, and they're athletes and they're amazing at it. And so you can sit back and like still be a fan, but realize actually what's going on and what they put into it and the time and everything. Whereas, a kid, you're looking on the screen and you're watching TV and it's Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior. And as a kid, you're just like, wow, these guys are just like, they're heroes, they're superheroes.
Right.
So
Exactly. So going from watching it on screen to being like the booker and having to kind of write out the finishes and write out the crowd pops and all that stuff, it's a major difference. And the reason I asked that question is because, growing up, past 30 plus years, being involved watching wrestling, and then as an adult, spending so much time with wrestlers and getting autographs and, having 100 items signed at a time or 50 items signed at a time, stuff like that. There's such a different mindset because as a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet Hulk Hogan and that's incredible. But then as an adult, you're like, wow, it's really cool. I'm going to meet Hulk Hogan, but I got to make sure I get all these items signed and I got to make sure I have them all signed in the right colors and I got to make sure I do it right and I don't smear the paint and all that stuff. So that's why I asked about the mindset difference, because I know from my personal experiences, it went from that fandom to when you run the business, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stress on top of it that you almost forget about the coolness factor of, hey, I'm going to see Hulk Hogan, or hey, I'm going to see whoever, or, like you said, Eric Redbeard was there, which, Eric Redbeard isn't Hulk Hogan, but Eric Redbeard is still a huge star. I just saw him in Philadelphia in December. And, the guy's great to talk to. And you still remember he's somebody. He's a big deal, So trying to be that business person, but still kind of having that little bit of fandom in you, that balance is a tough balance sometimes.
Yeah. So, I've never been at that Liberty before.
The balance definitely I've noticed as the shows go on,
You're good. Oh. You can keep going.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It kind of cut a little bit, but as the shows go on, you really learn that you have to, once day of the show, it's like, okay, it's time to not be a fan anymore. And it's time to, be part of the business and be part of the show. And all of us have that integral part that we have to do that day. But then at the same time, when I'm sitting in the back and I'm watching the monitor and the match is going on, I still find myself, just like, marking out a little bit when the match is happening, like when, cool spots and stuff are happening, but almost like in a different way, but still in the fan way, kind of. It's kind of cool to balance both of them.
Yeah. You ever feel like sometimes when you're doing that stuff, you almost become like into a little bit of a fog.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're kind of like, all right,
Yeah.
what just happened?
Yep. Me
Yeah.
too.
So I've always wondered, Nick. So when it comes to like booking matches and trying to create matches, I would tend to think that, you know, like Below Zero Wrestling would be like, well, we kind of want to do differently than, you know, like WWE is doing or AEW is doing. You kind of want to create your own stuff. So how hard is it? Because you're like, we don't want to really copy, right? Or do you kind of look at things and you're like, oh, I like what they did, so we're going to implement it here, or what?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everything in wrestling has been copied about 35 times or, you know, 300 times or whatever you want. You know, I mean, it's all been copied so much. And so when we're writing out stuff, when me and Zach, my business partner, are talking, we actually stay out of a lot of it, and we let the wrestlers themselves do a lot. We give a lot of freedom, and we're very hands on with those guys, but we give them a lot of freedom, like especially the day of, like, you know, this is who we want to win. This is how we want finishes and stuff to happen. But other than that, we give them a lot of play with it, and it's a nice mix because you have like myself, who's an all around fan, like I like all kinds of wrestling, and then Zach, who's like WWE, like that's what he knows, that's what he's grown up on, like that's what he is. You talk about New Japan, he's like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of that guy. But you know, so then when we talk to the guys, the talent, and explain kind of what we want going on, then they get their mix in, and you know they've been around all over, and so it actually is a really fun to do a balance, and you know, copying or not copying, like we don't ever say like we saw AEW do this, so we want to do this. If it happens to be something that looks the same, so be it.
So is it harder to book the talent or the venues? Which is the struggle?
Venues, 1000%. It is
Okay.
because anytime you go to a venue and you're like, yeah, hey, we want to come and what does it cost? What do you guys? And they're like, what are you doing? And we're like, wrestling. They're like, wrestling, like kids, like no, pro wrestling. They're like, oh yeah, we don't do that. I'm like, okay, sweet, thanks.
All right.
And a lot of places, yeah, they just kind of give you that, yeah, whatever, it's wrestling, but
because it's still frowned upon. There's still a lot of social circles that frown upon professional wrestling, which is insane in today's world.
Yeah, the professional wrestling in Fargo has not been anything special ever, really. We're not far from Minneapolis.
Yep.
Minneapolis is a hotbed for wrestling. I mean, it has been for many years, but Fargo itself is a very untapped, uneducated in wrestling terms, whatever you want to call it in that sense. So as we go to these places, a lot of them aren't very open to us coming. They think we're going to come and like just break stuff and, put holes in walls, and chairs and tables are getting busted and everything like that. And it's like, that's not what it is. So we've been very fortunate in finding like our home, essentially. I mean, it's not where we do all of our shows, but the Sanctuary Event Center here in town, it's got a very old school, like kind of ECW feeling because it's an old church. So there's like a balcony and everything. It's pretty cool that we were able to find that one. And it just so happens the owner's a huge wrestling fan. So
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Did anybody else, I don't know if anybody else has been, but did anybody else, if you have been, notice in the 2300 arena, which is the original ECW arena, that all that second level is totally closed in now?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's all 100% closed in now. It's just an open like ballroom.
Oh, wow. Didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I was just there in December.
Okay.
So who else have you
good.
reached out to, like Eric Rowan and stuff, to try to get them to come in?
A lot, honestly. I
Okay.
mean, when we were getting geared up for Winter Slam, we wanted to bring in a big name. We had Eugene before. He doesn't live too far from here, and then we had his ties with my partner Zach working for him. But we wanted to bring in a big name, so we reached out to a fair amount of people. He was one of the first, just because he's not that far from us, so
Yep.
travel expenses are not. You can keep a little cheaper on that rate. But I mean, we reached out from tag teams, AEW guys, like the Varsity Blondes, and we reached out to like guys like Cardona and Myers and some older people. We like the head, not the not John and Blank. A lot. We reached out to a lot. Rhino, Heath Slater, the guys that we've talked to, and now we've gotten in with some guys from like MLW and Impact, being that we've had some connections and have some guys coming up on some future shows. So I would think that a lot of those guys are going to be coming up to Fargo here pretty soon.
Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say how hard is it to actually find guys like the big name guys to want to come in?
Surprisingly, so when you're talking like big names, it's all through agents. Everything's through an agent, and very seldom can you actually like talk to them like on their phone or like on like on a messenger or something like that, or like the other guys, like if you want to call them, like the step down a little bit, like not these huge massive names, but people that everyone know. I have a phone book full of them right now, like, and they're all super cool. Like they don't, like they just want to be treated. They're just a regular person. So it's pretty cool in that sense too. Just being able to interact with them as just another person.
Okay.
Not a celebrity.
So Joe, did you have any questions?
I've just been reading up on our website here, and your website is pretty interesting here. And I'm seeing that you guys are part of a video game coming up in this upcoming year, looks like.
Yeah, Valtrix, I think, is the name of the company that's doing it.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Valtrix Games Indie Pro 22.
Yeah, so I believe that game should be. It comes out like on PC, and then they're going to be on Xbox and PlayStation eventually as well.
Cool.
And it's just it's going to be like a territory game, and so we're part of the Midwest territory. And you can hire and fire guys from companies and stuff like that. And so I'm interested to see exactly how it turns out. And when they reached out to us, it was kind of cool to say like, hey, you get to be in a game. There's no monetary anything involved in it, but you can be on it. We're like, heck yeah, why not? So
Cool.
That's really cool. So we've had a few other names that have come on Coast to Coast that we've given interviews to. I don't know if you know him, but we've had Garrison Creed here.
Yep, definitely know the name and familiar with him. Yep.
Really, really awesome guy. Really liked him. Bane Bailey was another one.
Okay. Nope. Not familiar with them.
Okay, I was just curious if you knew either of them.
No, Creed I'm familiar with, and I hasn't been a part of any of our events or anything, but I know that they're around the area and do work with some other promotions, not around us.
Okay. Big B.
So, I mean, like I said, I talked to PD the other day, trying to get him on the show. His schedule's just not working out. So, what was his match like? It was him and the System, and there was a third member, right, in that match? What was that
So,
match like?
him, Bobby Brennan, and the System opened the show. They put on a really great match. The System and PD have wrestled, however, a ton, and they've been around. I actually think they pretty much started around the same time. And then Bobby is from here in Minot, North Dakota, and he's a really good talent as well. And they put on a match that you can be very proud of to open up a show, get the crowd going. And the system snuck one away from the guys. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you think about like the type of matches you put on, is there really like one? Because for me, when I'm watching wrestling, I know that one of my favorite matches is the Royal Rumble. A lot of people love the Royal Rumble. So is there like one type of match that you really see like crowd just like, oh, this is awesome when you have that type of match?
Yeah, so like if I look back at what matches stood out in the crowd sense throughout our events that we've had so far, we've actually had a really good response in every event. It seems like there's a different match that stands out. Like we have two of our better matches, I can honestly say, have been tag matches where the crowd has just been like, holy crap, like insane. Our ladder match, we've had a couple singles matches the same, and we have had a battle royal that really went over really well too. So I think the nice thing is, or the thing with it here in town in this area, is that they just haven't had a lot of it, and because of it, it doesn't really matter what type of match it is, as long as like those guys go out there and they just kill it. And if it's a triple, then that's what it is for the night. That's the match. And if it's a singles, then that's what it is.
Cool.
All right. So before we move on, I just want to make sure to see if Will or Joe or Big B have any final questions. Will, did you have any final questions?
No, just a couple of remarks. Number one, he made the comment about, some of the stuff happens in wrestling 30 or 35 or 300 times. And literally right before we went on the air, we were just talking about how wrestling is historical, that, it repeats itself. History repeats itself in wrestling. So, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, because that's kind of the expectation. And then there was talking about booking talent and stuff like that, and having to go through agents. I'm right there with you. I totally understand it. And sometimes it's really cool. Sometimes it's great. And sometimes it sucks. And, from the perspective of booking them for signings and stuff, that's the perspective that I look at instead of the wrestling perspective. But it's the same exact ballpark, and like I said, sometimes it's great. Sometimes it sucks. So, but, you still get the opportunity to work with some tremendous talent, and that's what's the cool factor.
Yeah, and the more you deal with them, it's like the more comfortable you get, and you understand how certain guys, and if they've been in the WWE for a very long time, you understand like what they're expecting and what their expectations are compared to guys that are just breaking out, and maybe they are in TNA or MLW or something like that, and they're the expectations are much different.
Right.
All right, Joe, did you have any final questions?
No, I just appreciate you coming on, taking some time out, and just kind of giving us an insight on the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hope he sticks around for the rest of the show. But I got one final one, and me and Ace, we typically ask our guests this: your Mount Rushmore all time of wrestlers.
I
know you had trouble asking it on the other show I saw you on, so I thought maybe.
I hate this question, but it's a little bit better because I have all my figures over here, and so when I do my Mount Rushmore, I sometimes don't do like the ones that I think are the greatest because there's so many of them.
Oh yeah.
If I had to go my favorite, and I'm looking right now, Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, is in my top 4 of favorite of all time. Hulk Hogan is in my favorite of all time. One that a lot of people probably would even say is Sean Waltman. He's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I debate this many times. I go back and forth between guys like Edge, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels. Like those are all right there too. But I know those top 3 are always going to be in my top 3.
The Minnesota love there with Sean. I like it.
I want to get him up here really bad. I have a couple mutual connections, so I'm hoping one day that I can reach out to him and get him back up here. He's supposedly training, so you never know.
Well, if you get him on, maybe we can set up an interview with you guys in Coast to Coast, maybe.
Yeah,
if he's willing to. So
yeah, we can always see what we can do.
All right, so yeah, I was just really curious before we jump into our next thing, since you were a huge Razor Ramon fan, and that we've talked about this on the show before. What do you feel kind of disappointed that Scott Hall was never able to win the championship, the major championship?
Yeah, I think if his personal battles weren't there, he easily could have been a champion. I just think some of that held him back because he is very talented. I mean, he's extremely talented wrestler. He never got that push, and I've always wondered if it's because of the personal stuff.
All right, so we can go ahead and jump into our next topic. So Nick, so if you mind sticking around, we're going to talk a little bit of wrestling to finish up the show in that. So if you want to stick around, feel free to stick around. So we're going to actually talk about a historical moment on the WWE side. We're going to actually talk about the Royal Rumble from 97, 98, and 99. So we'll go ahead and start out with that. And then if you have any remarks after that, go ahead and fill in. So Will, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so Royal Rumble 97 came from San Antonio, Texas. And you really got to back up a little bit to Survivor Series of 96 to really get a good perspective of Royal Rumble 97. So Survivor Series 96, Brett comes back after a 6-month absence, faces Steve Austin, defeats Steve Austin. Sean drops the WWF Championship to Sid, creates a big controversial ending. You go on to the next month to the December In Your House pay-per-view. It ends up being Sid versus Brett. Sean interferes. Sid wins the belt, keeps it, which ultimately leads back to the Royal Rumble. Shawn Michaels gets his rematch against Sid at the Royal Rumble in San Antonio for the WWF Championship. And of course, Shawn takes the belt. The Rumble itself, a lot of great activity inside the Rumble, but it's really the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin more than anything. A lot of people refer to the birth of Austin as the King of the Ring 96, but that really wasn't it. Royal Rumble 97 is really his major standout pay-per-view. He goes on to win the Royal Rumble illegally because he actually was thrown out by Brett. But he ends up coming back in, sneaks back in, throws out Brett, throws out Taker, throws out Mick Foley. No, it wasn't Mick Foley. Throws out Kane. Before Kane was Kane, I was Isaac Yankem. Throws him out, and then goes on to win the Royal Rumble in 97. Then he goes on to WrestleMania 13, has another killer match with Brett. He ends up losing, but at the end of that match, they basically flip spots. Brett goes from the good guy to the bad guy. Austin goes from the bad guy to the good guy. And it's 1 year out, exactly 1 year out, to when Austin would win his first WWE championship from that WrestleMania 13 to WrestleMania 14, which kind of brings us into Royal Rumble 98. So Royal Rumble 98, all kinds of characters, all kinds of shenanigans going on in Royal Rumble 98. A couple of main things that happen there that are really important. Shawn Michaels gets tossed over the top rope in a WWF Championship match against The Undertaker, which is a casket match. Lands on the casket, hurts his back. Ultimately, it would lead to Shawn being put out of WWF for 4 years from that point. But then Austin goes on to win the Royal Rumble. Mick Foley ends up making 3 different entrances into that Royal Rumble. So those are some major key things that happen there. Kane comes out, sets the coffin on fire when Undertaker and Shawn Michaels are having their match. Undertaker supposedly in the casket. Kane sets it on fire, which sets up that feud to continue at WrestleMania 14, which is Undertaker versus Kane. Undertaker beats Kane cleanly at WrestleMania 14, which unfortunately kind of put a big damper on Kane's early jumpstart career. Kane would go on a couple months later to become the WWF champion, but for only one night. He would win it from Austin at King of the Ring 98 and lose it back to Austin the next night on Raw. So Austin would go on to hang on to it for a good chunk of the rest of the year. Then Austin ends up losing it in a 3-way match with Undertaker and Kane. When no winners declared, the title becomes vacated, and you have Survivor Series 98, which ends up being The Rock and Mankind in the finals for the tournament for the WWF Championship. Well, then when that happens, the McMahons turn on Mankind. Rock wins the title and go into Royal Rumble 98 or Royal Rumble 99, which is the next major pay-per-view. The WWF Championship match, one of my favorite matches of all time, is The Rock versus Mankind. My favorite part of that match is and always will be when Rock handcuffs Mankind at Royal Rumble 98 and begins to beat him senseless with a chair. It is one of the best matches or best parts of a match that you can imagine. It's just great. It's great entertainment. It was a great part of the match. Now, looking back on it, Mick Foley regrets that he did it and wishes he didn't do it because it's causing him a lot of issues today. But it was a great part of the match, and it was so believable, especially back then. Go on to the Royal Rumble itself. Vince McMahon, of all people, wins the Royal Rumble in 1999. So that sets up another pay-per-view between Austin and Vince called St. Valentine's Day Massacre in February of 99. The winner would go on to face The Rock for the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 15, which ultimately would be Austin winning. And then Austin goes on to defeat The Rock at WrestleMania 15, wins his championship back.
All right. So, Nick, after Will said that, do you have anything to add to that?
It brought back a lot of memories when I was just listening there and then repicturing everything inside my head. I always thought like back then, at the '97 Rumble when Austin essentially was eliminated and got back in. Like at the time, I remember myself actually like being like, "This is dumb. Like, why is this happening?" He was eliminated. Like you're still in that fan mode, like,
Right.
and I almost like thinking back, like, was there ever a chance that they wanted him to be a heel? I mean, like obviously he was a heelish at times, everything like that. But like, did they ever want like a full on heel because he cheated his way to win the Rumble and everything like that? So that's when I remember very vividly in that type of sense, and just those years with the names that you say: Kane, Undertaker, Mankind, Austin, The Rock. Like what a time and what an amazing time for wrestling right then and there.
Absolutely. You know what else was historical about the '97 Rumble? So the WWF Championship changes hands. So prior to that, you look back, it wasn't until you got to go all the way back to '92 before you saw a world title change. Prior to that, because '96, '95, '94, '93, you didn't have a world title change. And then on top of that, with that Royal Rumble, that's another Royal Rumble winner in '97 where Austin won and did not go on to get a WrestleMania main event for the world title, because at WrestleMania 13 in '97, it ended up being Sid versus The Undertaker for the world championship. So Austin won the Rumble in '97. He did not get a chance to go on for the WWF title in '97. It ended up being Sid and The Undertaker. The prior couple years, '93, '94, '95, '96, the Royal Rumble winner did go on to main event WrestleMania for a championship match.
All right.
So, Will,
go ahead.
you brought up the Rock Mankind I Quit match. Is that the one? You were saying that Mick Foley said he didn't want to do that match. That was the match that was in front of his wife and kids, right? And he really did not. He regrets that. Okay, and that's the one where they had the
recording of the
recording. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good match. That was
a great match.
And if you ever watch Beyond the Mat, you'll see that whole entire thing of the aftermath of it, and it's a horrible situation in the back.
But how believable was that, though?
Oh, because it was Mick Foley. I mean, anything Mick Foley does that gets that gruesome is always believable because we know his background. I mean,
it's crazy that guy's still walking.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think that that Mick Foley, Mankind / Cactus Jack / Dude Love, all those. I don't think that he got enough credit for actually what he did to be put on the hardcore scene. Definitely,
he never did.
Yeah,
Vince didn't really care for him.
Him and Terry Funk. Those were two that I'm like. Those names in the hardcore world should definitely be mentioned out there around the world, being like, these two put what hardcore is on the map. Oh, yeah. Like you mentioned hardcore.
Terry Funk only ever had that one, I believe it was, NWA championship back in the 70s, but he's still much higher regarded as a professional wrestler than Mick Foley has ever been, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched some of the Japan stuff that they've done before, and it's just like, it's brutal. It's just brutal from when they were growing up. But that you don't think of that when you think of Terry Funk and Mick Foley. Like even when you just said it there that Terry Funk is more regarded. Like even knowing that Mick Foley is as good as he is, you still in your head go, yeah, Terry Funk was great.
Yeah,
and not realize that Mick Foley, he wasn't flipping and the most athletic guy or anything like that, but what he did with his three characters was just insane, amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. You know what always stands out to me about Mick Foley was Mick Foley and Vader. The Mick Foley Vader feud was absolutely incredible because it was so believable that Vader was this monster that just dominated everybody and would literally hurt you and send you to the hospital. And like if you got in the ring with Vader, you were taking your life in your own hands. And then you had Mick Foley, who just didn't care and went head on with Vader constantly in those matches. Now, I'm pretty sure Mick Foley lost every single match he ever had with Vader, but he put up a hell of a fight more than anybody other than Sting ever did.
Yeah.
Wasn't Vader the one that took part of Foley's ear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought his ear got like wrapped up in the ring,
rope during
in the
the
ropes, and
match,
then like
yeah.
ripped off a part of his ear.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I couldn't remember who that was, but yeah, you're right. It's Vader. So Joe, any final thoughts on this?
Now, just going back in history, this was a pretty good time for the Royal Rumble, and then it started to slack off a little bit, and it became less of a Rumble. So, um, 97 they brought in 60,477 fans for this event, and it was at the Alamo Dome.
Yep.
And then they went back there in 2017, and they drew 52,020 fans at the same dome there. And as we go into this weekend, they're going to the dome at America Center, and it looks like they're going to have about 40,000, but I'm sure they're going to pay for that and tell you it's a lot more than that. But I think they're giving away a lot of free tickets. So it tells you the times of wrestling, how much wrestling has changed, and how hard it is to pack into a stadium or into an arena show right now. It's just tough times to be a wrestling fan and a pro wrestler at this point. And I'm sure that Nick there can say the same thing. Just trying to get fans to get back into the professional wrestling business is tough. But this Royal Rumble here, these are really good ones. There are a lot of great memories on there, and it starts of we start to see the Stone Cold era start to begin. The Attitude Era starts to come into play. Then we bounce it off, and then we get the Generation X, the NWO. So very good time to start to really be a wrestling fan at that point if you weren't a wrestling fan before that.
All right, so thank you for that. We can go ahead and jump into our next topic, which we kind of here we actually talk about John Cena. So we typically pick a wrestler that we talk about every week. This week we're talking about John Cena. We're talking about kind of his career, his future plans, and any missed opportunities that might have come up. So Nick, I'll go ahead and I'll start with you. So when you think about John Cena, what do you think about John Cena's career and maybe some missed opportunities that they might have had with John Cena?
Oh, did you say me?
Nick, yeah, Nick, sorry.
Oh, sorry, it cut out when you said the name, so I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, so John Cena, I've had like an up and down love-hate with him, and I think a lot of wrestling fans have. So I don't even remember the years exactly, but I remember that they did a TV show one time, and I watched this guy on TV, the Prototype, and I thought he was the coolest wrestler ever. He was just, like, man, this guy's going to be amazing. And then years later, I'm watching John Cena, and I'm going, I don't really like this guy. And it took me a few times to remember, or it took me a while to actually know that he was who I loved so much when I watched that TV show in the Prototype, and that now he's John Cena. So that made me earn a little bit of like respect for him. And as I've grown older and watched him more and more, I actually don't mind John Cena now. I didn't like him early on. I really think that he's done a lot for the wrestling business. Yeah, he's been pushed, and they have him win everything, and he's never super seen on everything like that. But I'm okay with it, with what he's done and what he's brought outside the wrestling world too. I think he's brought so much to Make-A-Wish and so many kids, and what is wrestling about? I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the kids, because they're the ones that are going to continue it. So I was never a fan of Thugonomics, the Doctor Thugonomics, but I know a lot of people were. The one thing I did like about it is he did, the spinner belt. I've always liked that. So I've had a very roller coaster ride with John Cena as a fan, but as we've gotten older here and everything, I've grown to like him, and I really like, it's right there. I really like the NWO John Cena figure that I got a few months ago. So
Nice.
yeah.
All right. So do you think that there was any missed opportunities that they had with John Cena that they could have done?
Well, I mean, everyone's gonna say, John Cena heel turn. That's, to me, that's really the only thing that he hasn't done in his career where you can say like a missed opportunity or something. I mean, obviously there's probably some matches that he could have won or gone over in a sense, but an actual John Cena heel, I think, would have been very interesting, especially at the peak of John Cena's career. It would have been fun to see what would have happened, especially when the fans hated him.
Yeah.
And they never pulled the trigger. That's really the only missed opportunity, the major missed opportunity that I can think of.
All right, so I'll go to Joe on this one. Joe, John Cena.
Well, John Cena was a heel, though. I don't know where people say that he was never a heel, because he was a heel in his career. You know, he was a heel during the Thugonomics era too. Yeah. So for people out there to say John Cena was never a heel, they wish he was. He actually was. But I think in this sense, him being as popular as he was, to have another heel turn like that, I agree. They should have done another heel turn on him. But Vince seen so much dollar signs in John Cena that that's the reason why they wouldn't turn him. And I mean, the kids, especially for the kids. I mean, everything he's done for the kids. But then again, Hulk Hogan turned heel too, and he did everything for the kids too.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that never happened. The guy's earned everything he's got, though. I mean, love or hate him, you gotta respect him, man. He's one of the hardest workers out there. He lives down here by Will and I, and he'll fly in and drive home and sleep in his bed for a couple hours and hop back out and get on the plane and head to do a convention or do a movie and things like that. I know down here, when he went grocery shopping one day, a guy couldn't pay for his food all the way in a grocery store line, and he didn't know Cena was standing behind him. Nobody did, and Cena pays for the guy's groceries. It was a military guy, but he helped the guy. He didn't ask for nothing in return. There was no press around, nothing like that. The military guy said thank you, and he got a picture with him and stuff like that. So, overall, John Cena, love or hate him, you just gotta respect the guy. I didn't care. I mean, in the beginning, he was really cool with all those different outfits he would come out in, and every town he wrestled in. So I thought if he ever got over really good, you could have a whole bunch of action figures made of that guy. But then he went to the shorts and T-shirt, and my God, we got more action figures of him than anybody else out there, I think.
All right.
Shawn Michaels might be.
Yeah, I was gonna say Shawn and things like that, but he's got to be right up there with action figures.
All right, Big B.
No, I think Nick and Joe said it the best. When he was at his highest, it would have been a good heel turn because everybody didn't like him and was booing him. But Joe said it the best. Vince saw the dollar signs, the make a wish. It would have just killed. But again, Hogan did the same thing, so it would have been a huge heel turn. I don't know if they really missed the opportunity. I mean, the fact that they didn't do the heel turn was a missed opportunity. But outside of that, nothing. I enjoyed the mic skills from his Thugonomics days all the way, even when he comes back here and there. I think the guy's got great mic skills. And I think Nick said it, he's earned everything he's gotten. I mean, he's a big name. I mean, between him and The Rock right now, I think they're almost on everything, movies, TV shows, advertising. I mean, so they got their hands, they're sitting well. So, love or hate him, you got to respect the guy. I mean, he's definitely a remarkable guy. We'll probably see him back, do a return here, maybe for a match or something. But, I think his career was great.
All right, and then I'll finish this one off with Will.
I was wondering when you were going to let me go.
No.
So a couple
that's
things.
Will's favorite wrestler right there, buddy.
Yeah. I do have a closet collection of Cena for sure, and I think extremely highly of the guy. I've seen him wrestle quite a bit live in person, and I like I said, huge opinion. To this day, he still has more Make-A-Wish wishes granted than any other superstar, any other actor, than anybody. He's done more for that organization. You can't even compare Hulk Hogan or anybody else to that organization with Cena. Nobody says anything bad about Cena. Behind the scenes, you don't have wrestlers that say, Cena was cool, but then he did this, or Cena was cool, but then he did that. You don't have people saying that stuff. So, the guy always took care of business and always took care of people around him. A couple missed opportunities that I'd like to bring up. Everybody talks about, well, Cena never turned heel. Well, I understand it, but there was a thought process. He was the face of the company for a long time. But the missed opportunities that I see are, number one, back at WrestleMania 23, he ends up facing Shawn Michaels instead of Triple H. He was supposed to face Triple H for the second year in a row at WrestleMania 23 and dropped the belt to Triple H. Well, Triple H, of course, got hurt, couldn't compete at WrestleMania 23, so it ends up being Shawn Michaels. I think the missed opportunity there was they should have let Michaels take that belt off of him at WrestleMania 23 and then had Cena chase Michaels for a little bit and win the title back. I think that was a huge missed opportunity there. And then, of course, he comes back last year, humongous promo, humongous huge fight feeling with Cena and Reigns going into SummerSlam. Huge missed opportunity was Cena should have took the belt off Roman, even if it was just for a day or a week or a couple weeks. He should have took the belt off Roman and then had Roman chase him and then really beat him in a fashion to where he had to, be out of WWE for a little while and to where it made sense. Him coming back, the summer of Cena, as they called it, and then this humongous big fight feel, and then having Roman go over him clean, and then he just goes away and you don't hear from him the next day or anything like that. He's just gone again. That made no sense to me.
Yeah.
John Cena as a total overall individual, not just a wrestler, but as a person and as a character. I don't know if you guys have watched The Peacemaker yet, the TV show on HBO Max. If you haven't watched it, you're really, really missing out. You're missing out. From the introduction of the show, the opener of the show, John Cena does a dance. He does a tap dance in the beginning of the show, the intro of the show. It's hilarious through and through. The guy has really honed his acting skills and is well on his way to doing so much. Not to mention hefty bags commercials, doing the Credit Karma commercials. He was a spokesperson for Honda, doing all kinds of different things. The guy's got his hands in everything and is almost doing more now than even The Rock is doing. The Rock's got his tequila going. The Rock's, past couple of years been the highest paid male actor in the country, but John Cena is right behind him and doing just as much out there in the main world. So I can understand where he hasn't been in wrestling as much. The only other thing I would say, missed opportunity wise, is I think if anybody was going to break that Ric Flair record, that it would be Cena. And I think the only reason they haven't is because John Cena has so much respect for Ric Flair that while he's alive, he doesn't want to do that. But I think if Ric Flair passes while John Cena is still in good enough physical shape to be a wrestler, that John Cena will break that record and become the 17-time champion. And eventually, in history, as people look back, John Cena will land on people's Mount Rushmore wrestlers. Even if it's not in our current time right now, but as our generation starts to get older and younger generations come up, they'll talk about John Cena the way they talk about Ric Flair now and the way they talk about Hulk Hogan now.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think stuff like the internet hurts guys like John Cena because everyone can go and bash him all the time and everything. But I mean, you are definitely right that he's legit. He's legit as they come.
So the one thing that I did agree with, so I kind of agree with what everybody was saying about everything that John Cena does for Make-A-Wish, which is absolutely huge. There's really nobody else that you can look out there that has really done that. And then Nick, the point you brought up, I was kind of the same way with Cena. It was kind of that that love-hate thing for a while. I'm like, oh, I really don't like this guy, and they're like, okay, I do. And then I'm like, oh, I don't. Because for me, it was that whole Super Cena thing for a while to where I was like, I don't like it because it seemed like he got everything he wanted, or somebody, a big-time name would come in and like, oh, this guy can't lose. And then Super Cena would come out. and Super Cena would beat him, and you're like, okay, so there's that Super Cena again. Super Cena's gonna beat him. So after a while, we kind of got used to it, and I guess that's the John Cena that kind of grew on you after a while, and so to
Can I
me,
make
it was kind of
one?
the same thing. Yeah,
Hey, can I make one smart-ass comment? Seriously?
yeah.
Both of those guys were talking about how many figures Shawn Michaels has out. Do you guys not collect AJ Styles figures? Because there's like 1 million of those.
Bro, I love AJ Styles, man.
So many AJ Styles figures.
There's way too many AJ Styles figures.
He's in every single top picks WWE Elite, I think, in the last 10 years.
Yes.
Or since he's been there for the last 6 years or whatever he's been there now.
Roman's got to be
some
up there too at some point.
I could use some more Shawn Michaels figures. I don't need any more AJs.
No.
Dude, AJ has all the cool looking gear coming out though, man. Come on. That best one is that OG club character one. That's an awesome one.
Well, we can go ahead and jump into our final topic, which is this weekend. We know that the Royal Rumble is coming up, so we'll just go ahead and do our Royal Rumble predictions quick. So, Big B, we'll start out with you. Royal Rumble predictions.
We just talking about the match, or we talking about the whole card?
Just the match.
Just the Royal Rumble match?
Just
the match, Big B. We'll be here all night long.
The women's and men.
The women's, I think Lita's going to win it. The men's,
dirty dog.
God, there's so many possibilities for the men. I'll go KO.
KO. I saw that look on Will's face when Big B's like, I'm choosing Lita. I saw him like, wait. So I'm going, wait, what? All right. So, Joe.
I'm going Liv. I've been thinking about it, tossing it back and forth for a little while now, but I think Liv.
Mm-hmm.
Then my other one was a surprise, and it's a big one that they've been talking about, is Ronda Rousey coming back this weekend, so maybe she wins it. But my pick is Liv. Okay. I think Ronda comes back and throws out Charlotte, and there we go. We got a WrestleMania match going on. The men's side's been really difficult because of the whole, they want to play Roman and Lesnar at WrestleMania. So I think Rollins wins his match, and then Roman goes into the Rumble and wins the Rumble and sets him up to face Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Wow.
All right. I like that. That was kind of the other route that I was thinking about going, but
I'm hoping not, because I would love to see Orton win it, but I think that's how it's going to go.
All right, Nick.
For the women's is actually the one I've been paying more attention to that stuff lately. I would like to see Bianca win it again. I think that she deserves another spotlight run. I think they kind of did her dirty in the last few months or whatever. So I'd love to see her win. I don't know if she will, but yeah, Lita, please. I would love the kid in me, and Lita would be the amazing, because I the rumors are that she wants to continue working for a little bit.
Yeah.
For the men's, Kevin Owens has crossed my mind a lot, but Joe, when you said the scenario with Rollins and Reigns there, like I actually really like that, and that might be the way that I would want it to go. So if that's not necessarily my prediction, but I'm gonna piggyback off of you and go, that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, because I would like to see Orton win it, but I think that's how it's going to go.
All right, Will.
Yeah. I think for the women, the obvious prediction and my overall prediction would be Liv, but I would not rule out the possibility of either A, Bailey returning and winning, or B, Shotzi winning it. But my overall prediction is Liv. And then for the men's, I don't know. Something about Edge, man. I see the opportunity of Edge winning it and giving him his one last title run or his one last title chase, where maybe he wins it for a short time. And I can really see Edge winning that Rumble. You still have another big pay-per-view or big, whatever they call them now, big event, live events or whatever.
Premier live events.
Premier live event. between now and WrestleMania, which is the Elimination Chamber. And there's a lot of things that can happen there to set up a different WrestleMania card. But I really think that you're going to see something different out of the Rumble. And anything that they think is predictable will not happen, is what I think.
All right. Well, Will, I must say you just took my one pick on the women's side because I was going to say my pick was going to be that Bailey was going to return, shock everybody, and then she was going to come out and win the Rumble because nobody saw it coming.
Well, that's just one of my alternates could happen, but I think it'll be Liv.
Which could be a possibility.
I
I was going back and forth between Bailey returning and winning or Liv Morgan winning because we know that they've been kind of trying to push her. So those are the two names that really came up to my mind. And then on the men's side, number one, Joe, you took my other thought about Rollins winning and then Reigns getting in the Rumble and then winning and then challenging Lesnar, or the other name that was really coming across my mind was actually AJ Styles.
Goldberg.
I think AJ Styles don't even say that name of Goldberg. Don't even do that. But AJ Styles is another name that crossed my mind also. So, but at this point in time, if it's not Roman, then my gut's going to tell me AJ Styles.
I thought you were pulling for Omos.
I told you last week what was going to happen. Goldberg has that one match left. He's going to come in there. He's going to win the Rumble. He's going to throw out everybody. They're going to go to Saudi Arabia there, do the Elimination Chamber. And since they can pay Goldberg so much money, he's going to the Chamber. He's going to lose it, and he's done. But he's going to win the Rumble. He's going to come out number one, and that'll be the longest match Goldberg's ever had in his whole entire career.
Man,
now we're talking nonsense.
No, nonsense would be if we had our buddy Randy Cox on here.
I didn't say he had to wrestle the whole entire time. He can get knocked outside the ring. Remember back at Sold Out when he was in the part of that NWO Battle Royal. He laid on the side for a little while there before he finally won that thing. He can get knocked out, man. We've seen it happen. Guys disappear in the Rumble. Roman and those guys kind of disappear and they come back and win it at the end.
I've always disliked that move, or them leaving for so long and then look, they're back.
Well, we just talked about it. Vince and Stone Cold, they started 1 and 2, and somehow they wound up the last two guys. And where were they at half the night? Sitting back drinking beer. Just saying.
So last question here: how long do we think Knoxville lasts in the Rumble?
Oh, I told you he's going to throw out Zayn. I'm telling you, Kane's coming in, as I keep saying it. He comes in as a surprise, but maybe not. Maybe Taker comes in as a surprise and scares the hell out of Johnny Knoxville and throws himself out. But
he's definitely eliminated Sammy, and then he'll have some jackass style elimination. That he'll
and that's what I've been saying. He's going to have that jackass style elimination.
Dominic's going to eliminate him.
Who?
Dominic.
Oh, that'd be horrible.
Dominic Mysterio.
Maybe Ryback comes back and
Ryback.
Him and Goldberg 1-2.
Oh yes, best Royal Rumble ever.
All right, well, we're at that time, so I'll go around and kind of get everybody's final thoughts. So, Big B, final thoughts.
No, I'm glad everybody enjoyed the show. I like the comments from the viewers. Nick, thanks for coming on, and let's keep in touch and let us know when your next show is, and maybe we can set up some interviews with some of the guys that you got coming in some of these times. So thanks for being on the show.
Yep, and Joe, any final thoughts?
Guys, I appreciate being on here as always and talking with you guys about what's going on in the world of wrestling and reliving our youth, as we call it. Nick, thank you for coming on here and giving us a little insight there. I was catching out some of your stuff on YouTube there, which I was just watching that Battle Royal from the river.
Yeah.
that was interesting. So thank you. Thank you coming on and just giving us a little insight. And to you guys, thank you guys for always doing this for us.
All right, Nick?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I love talking wrestling, whether it's Below Zero or just reliving the old days and memories coming back to me. And when you hear other people talk about it, you start remembering stuff. So thanks again for having me on. If we ever want to do it down the road, I'm always willing. And yeah, we'll see if we can't get some of the Below Zero guys on as well. So thanks again.
Yeah.
Where can
All
we
right.
find where can we find your stuff at?
Our main page for social media would be Facebook, just Below Zero Wrestling, and the other stuff we do is on like YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. It's all Below Zero Wrestling. Other than Twitter, it's below the number 0 and then wrestling.
Okay.
So, but yeah, Facebook, and then we got some interesting stuff hopefully coming up on YouTube. My business partner Zach, he's a YouTube guy. He has a channel with like 350,000 subscribers, and so we're gonna do some interesting stuff here coming up in the next couple months, hopefully.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe somewhere down the line we can talk about doing some live streams right here, on Coast to Coast for some of our viewers.
Sure.
All right, Will, any final thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be interested in doing some live streams and TRC as well. And then Nick, I'm going to follow your group, and I'm going to send you a friend request as well. And
Thank
then if you know anybody that's looking for any autographs or looking for any merchandise or anything like that, I mean, that's what I do all the time. I have a group here. All these guys are part of my group. Great bunch of guys. So we do live sales a couple times a week. So we'd really be interested in having you come check one out and check out some good, I heard you say you were collecting figures, and, we've got figures, we've got signed figures, we've got pictures. I mean, we got it all. So, and a lot of hard to find stuff too.
Yeah.
So definitely would love to have you come check it out. So thank you very much for being on. I really enjoyed talking to you. Especially, we had a couple things in common with the trying to book talents and stuff like that. So I know how it is. I feel the pain.
Yeah.
Huge shout out to my guys, Top Rope Collectibles. I really appreciate you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, I don't know what I'd be doing right now. So, and then of course, Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, always a great time. Tuesday Night Mania, Between the Ropes on Sunday nights, just always great stuff going on over here. Huge shout out and thank you to Chris Mabry, Crispy Bacon. Without that guy, I don't know where any of us would be. And then of course, you guys are great. Always enjoy it. And thank you all very much. And that's all I got, guys.
All right, well, so thank you. We definitely want to thank Nick for coming on, and then of course, Big B and Joe and Will. Thank you all. It's a pleasure. Like every week, it's always fun. And then of course, Crispy Bacon background. We couldn't do it without you, brother. So with that, all of our viewers, you have a fantastic night, and we'll see you tomorrow for an episode of Sports Minute. All right, have a good night.